very much so.
Do you think Mrs. Parker Bowles was a factor in the breakdown of your marriage?
Well, there were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded.
For years, the world watched Princess Diana live a life that seemed torn between royal duty and personal freedom. She was adored by millions, photographed endlessly, and scrutinized more than perhaps any woman of her time. Yet behind the palace walls, Diana was quietly making decisions that would shape history long after her voice fell silent. Few could have imagined that one of her most powerful acts would not happen in front of cameras or during a public speech, but in the private drafting of her final wishes. When details of her estate emerged, even members of the royal family were said to be stunned. It wasn't about scandal. It wasn't about revenge. It was about intention. Diana's final decisions reflected her values, her priorities, and the deep love she carried for her sons above all else. In choosing how her wealth and personal possessions would be handled, she sent a message, one that reached far beyond money. What she decided reshaped expectations, surprised insiders, and revealed a side of Diana that was thoughtful, strategic, and fiercely protective. Tonight, we look at the final decision that left the royal family stunned and what it truly meant. By the mid-1990s, Princess Diana's life had changed dramatically. Her marriage to Prince Charles had publicly unraveled, and in 1996, their divorce was finalized. The settlement granted Diana a substantial financial package, including a lump sum and the right to maintain her residence at Kensington Palace. Though no longer officially Her Royal Highness, she remained one of the most recognized women in the world. But what many did not realize was that during this transitional period, Diana was thinking carefully about her legacy. Diana understood that her life carried both privilege and uncertainty. She had 2 young sons, Prince William and Prince Harry, who would grow up in the intense spotlight of monarchy and media. She wanted to ensure that whatever happened, they would have not only financial security but also personal freedom. This desire shaped the drafting of her will. In private meetings with advisors and legal representatives, Diana structured her estate with deliberate clarity. The majority of her wealth, estimated at approximately £21 million before taxes, was designated primarily for her sons. What surprised many insiders was the level of independence she built into those provisions. Rather than tying her estate to complex royal oversight, Diana placed control in trust structures designed specifically for William and Harry. The funds would be accessible when they reached adulthood, giving them the ability to make their own choices. To some within royal circles, this reflected Diana's independent spirit, her desire to empower her children outside rigid institutional frameworks. Beyond finances, Diana made thoughtful decisions about her personal belongings. Jewelry, letters, and deeply sentimental items were cataloged with care. She reportedly wanted her sons to choose meaningful pieces when the time was right, ensuring that their connection to her would be personal rather than ceremonial. These were not simply valuables. They were symbols of memory, love, and identity. Within royal tradition, estates often follow structured expectations. Diana's approach, however, carried her signature individuality. She was not dismantling tradition, but she was quietly reshaping it. Her will demonstrated foresight, protection, and a clear understanding that her sons' futures might not follow predictable paths. For a family accustomed to hierarchy and protocol, such autonomy embedded in her final wishes was unexpected. In those quiet legal documents, Diana made one thing clear. Her priority was not maintaining appearances, it was safeguarding her children's independence and emotional well-being. And though no one could yet know how significant those decisions would become, the groundwork had already been laid. When Princess Diana tragically passed away in 1997, the world reacted with shock and grief. Tributes poured in from every corner of the globe. Amid the mourning, attention slowly turned to the practical matters that follow any passing her estate. It was then that the structure of her final decisions began to draw attention. After estate taxes, the inheritance left for Prince William and Prince Harry was reportedly reduced but still substantial. What stood out was not merely the amount, but the timing and control. The funds were placed in trust, initially set to be distributed at age 25, later adjusted to 30. This careful staging suggested Diana wanted her sons to mature before assuming full financial authority. Members of the royal family were accustomed to generational wealth tied closely to institutional responsibility. Diana's arrangements, however, centered solely on her sons as individuals. There was no complex redistribution to extended royal entities. Her estate was personal, direct, and protective. Her jewelry collection also carried emotional weight. Iconic pieces that had once dazzled on global tours were ultimately worn by her daughters-in-law, Kate Middleton and Meghan Markle, symbolically connecting Diana's legacy to the next generation. But originally, these items were earmarked with her sons' future families in mind, not as assets of the crown, but as family heirlooms. To some royal observers, this approach reflected Diana's subtle assertion of identity. Even in death, she distinguished between the institution and her family. That distinction, though quietly expressed in legal language, sent a powerful message. The royal family's reported surprise was not rooted in conflict, but in the realization that Diana's influence would continue independently of palace structures. Her sons would carry not only her memory, but resources she had personally secured for them. It was autonomy wrapped in maternal care. As details circulated, it became clear that Diana's final decisions were less about wealth and more about empowerment. She ensured her sons would have the means to pursue their own paths, whether aligned closely with royal life or branching into something new. In doing so, she extended her protective embrace far beyond her lifetime. As Prince William and Prince Harry grew older, the impact of their mother's estate became more visible. Financial independence allowed them choices that previous generations might not have possessed so freely. While both remained connected to royal duties for many years, they also engaged in charitable initiatives reflecting personal passions: mental health advocacy, veteran support, and global humanitarian causes. Diana had been deeply committed to charitable work, from AIDS awareness to landmine campaigns. By securing her sons' independence, she ensured they could continue that spirit of service without complete reliance on institutional funding. It was a subtle but significant shift in modern monarchy. Observers later noted that Diana's foresight may have influenced how both princes navigated adulthood. William balanced tradition with modernization, while Harry eventually chose a more independent path abroad. Though their decisions stemmed from many complex factors, the financial foundation left by their mother undoubtedly provided flexibility. Within royal circles, autonomy can be both empowering and challenging. Diana's estate effectively gave her sons the freedom to define their identities beyond rigid expectation. That alone marked a departure from older royal patterns. It is important to recognize that Diana did not dismantle tradition. She prepared her children for a world she understood intimately. Having experienced public scrutiny and private isolation, she likely recognized the importance of security that was personal rather than purely institutional. Years after her passing, analysts still discuss how strategic her planning was. She anticipated that her sons would face enormous pressure. By shielding them financially, she reduced one layer of vulnerability. That foresight, embedded quietly in her will, revealed a deeply thoughtful mother. Her final decision was not dramatic or rebellious. It was measured, protective, intentional. And in that intention, it stunned those who realized how carefully she had planned. Today, Princess Diana's legacy extends far beyond headlines. She is remembered for compassion, courage, and emotional authenticity. Yet her final decision regarding her estate reveals another dimension: strategic clarity. By prioritizing her sons completely and structuring her wealth around their independence, Diana ensured her influence would endure in practical ways. She did not rely on tradition to safeguard them. She personally secured their foundation. Reported surprise within the royal family was ultimately a recognition of her quiet strength. Even after divorce, even outside certain royal titles, she maintained agency over her legacy. She understood the power of planning. Her choices also humanized her. They showed a mother thinking not about grandeur but about stability. Not about royal optics, but about her children's future relationships, families, and identities. When William and Harry speak about their mother today, they often highlight her warmth and protectiveness. In her estate planning, that protectiveness becomes tangible. It lives not only in memory, but in structure. In the end, Princess Diana's final decision about her estate did more than distribute wealth. It distributed freedom. It preserved personal choice. and it quietly reshaped how legacy could function within modern royalty. The world may remember her for the photographs, the fashion, and the compassion. But behind the scenes and carefully drafted documents, Diana made one final, powerful statement. Her greatest title was not princess. It was mother.